All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning to all of you who's following us over the internet. It's always nice to be back here today for one more lecture. Knowing that today I am competing, first with the bad weather outside because it's raining, and second because it's World Cup and Canada is playing right now, starting the game. But it's always good to be here, and I know we're going to have more incarnate is coming, and definitely there's a lot of the disconnected brothers and sisters with us today. So before we start our lecture today, that's going to be talk about what are miracles. We are going to do our initial reading and our initial prayer. So from the book Happy Life by Divaldo Pereira Franco, by the spirit of Joana de Angelis. Advice is only valuable if you are willing to act on it. When you are in any type of difficulty, ask a more experienced, better equipped person to help and advise. But do not try to prove your own opinion correct. Listen with care, think, and then take the decision that seems most suitable. On the other hand, do not disdain the impatient and advice that you get or are looking for either. Examine everything and keep what is good, taught the apostle in the name of the good. So let us all now here connect our hearts and our thoughts to God our Creator, to Jesus our Master, to all the spirits and benefactors that are here with us right now on this day of lecture. And let us let them guide us through these teachings from the Gospel that we're going to be learning a little bit about today during this lecture. May this light shine all over us, our homes, and to all of those that today could not be here. And so be it. All right, so today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about what are miracles. Okay? Do they exist? Right? So first thing that I'm going to do about miracles is to talk about what the word miracle means. Okay? So etymologically talking, miracles, it's a word that means admirable, surprising, something that's extraordinary, right? That is the root of the word. But the Academy defines the word as a divine power, contrary to the laws of nature, right? And over time, through in theology, that's exactly the meaning that we got to this word, the derogation of the laws of nature. So something that would be completely impossible in nature, but it's happening, right? Over time, like I said, that's unfortunately forgot the real meaning of the word miracle, which is something that's so amazing that, like, it's surprised you and extraordinary, to actually only have this meaning of something that derogates the laws, the natural laws, or the laws of nature, right? That goes completely against all the laws of physics, chemistry, anything, like it's impossible, right? And so for centuries, because we had this concept of what miracle is, we tend to, through the centuries and the millenniums, to everything that we could not explain was a miracle, okay? So a thunder falling from the sky was a miracle, or maybe it was supernatural, was God talking to us, right? Or imagine like back in the times, the first guy to get into a cave and shot inside, like say loud, scream inside of a cave and hear his voice coming back to him. First, he didn't realize it was his voice coming back to him. The word echo didn't even exist. So he thought it was a miracle. The cave that's empty is talking to me. It's a miracle here, right? Or maybe it's God talking to me, right? It took like long. So maybe they even called out this is a divine cave because this is talking to you. See, when you talk, the kid talks back, and it's the voice of, like, who knows what went through their mind at that time, right? But that's considered something completely supernatural, right? It's just a simple echo. Today we have the word echo. We know exactly our words, we know exactly how the sound waves work, why they bounce back and they bounce back from the walls of the cave. And I'm not going to go in that path because Raphael, who's a scientist, would kill me because I would not be able to sitting here right now, would be shocked with my low level of scientific knowledge. Okay, but we now know it's not a miracle. It's not supernatural. It's normal. For you in certain environments, when you scream, you have an echo coming back, right? So your voice comes back, right? But the truth is, back in there, especially like, let's talk about 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 300 years ago, a lot of things were considered a miracle. Imagine if someone goes back 500 years ago and with an airplane and put an airplane flying in the air and shows to someone 500 years ago, they think it's a miracle. Absolutely impossible. It's impossible. So there's a miracle. Nothing can flow in there that heavy without falling. Because even if I get a little pebble and I throw in the air, it falls. How come that's a miracle? It's the hands of God who's going, right? And putting that airplane in the air. Well, now today we know that's not how it is, right? Because yes, we have the law of gravity that tells that, that brings everything down. But we also have the laws of aerodynamics that keeps the airplane up in there, right? So over time, the same way that the more we go back in history, the more we have things being called miracles because we have no explanations. If you come forward to now, a lot of things that used to be called miracles now, we say, oh, that's normal. There's no miracle in there. Yeah, we know what there's lightning. There's a discharge of protons and electrons between the clouds and the earth, and that's why it's a deep electrical discharge. In fact, now we manipulate electricity, right? That's how we have light in here right now, right? Fire probably in the beginning, when the first person, they thought there was a miracle, right? Or something supernatural. Now we manipulate fire, no problem at all. There's no secrets here about fire. So over the time, this concept of a miracle as something that derogates the laws of nature, it's less and less acceptable, right? To just say like, oh, it happens because God wanted, and it's completely impossible. So there's no explanation in nature that can explain that fact. It doesn't fly anymore with us these days, right? It's less and less things that we can use this word. And in fact, we're going to see by the end of this lecture that there's not a single situation where we actually can use this word miracle in the sense of derogation of the laws of nature. And the reason is because the laws of nature and the divine laws, they're the same. They're the same. Who created the universe? Who created gravity? And and how we work, and how our bodies work. It's God. Everything was created by Him. So all the laws on nature was created by Him. So nature's laws of nature, divine laws, no difference. The laws of nature is just one part of the divine laws, because then the divine laws also come, your moral laws and other things. This is just a part of the divine laws, right? So then some people can say, oh yeah, okay, but God is the supreme creator. He created the universe. So He has the power to derogate His own laws. So why wouldn't He do a miracle in a sense of derogation of the laws of nature? He could. Probably, yes, He is the creator. But why would He? Isn't His creation perfect? 100% perfect. Yes. So why He needs to derogate that? Project Group does something. Doesn't need to prove anything to us to prove His power. It doesn't need to prove anything. Would it make no sense that something that's perfect needs to be derogated to solve a problem? It's perfect. The solutions are right there. It's just not the way we want it, but it's all right there, right? So God will not need to derogate His laws. It makes no sense. And in fact, in the book Genesis, on chapter 13, he talks about, he gives an example. Imagine a crafter's man builds this perfect watch. And instead of showing his perfection, so look how this watch is precise, how he moves, how he works, no, he just takes apart. To show, like, I'm gonna show you how I did this, but it takes apart. So that's what we're gonna ask. If we think that God would derogate his own laws, that's what he'd be doing, is take something that's perfect, taken apart, to prove what? It's perfect. It doesn't need to be derogated. It doesn't need to be changed, right? And then when we talk about miracles and spiritism, does the spiritism perform miracles? A lot of people think yes, and a lot of people look for spiritism after the miracles, especially when we're talking about cure. We historically have so many mediums that cured things that are incurable. People who had cancers who the doctor said there's nothing else to do, but they end they get this spiritual, went to this healer or to Venus center, and I have this medium that work, and the cancer was cured. Was that a miracle in a sense of a derogation of the divine laws or the laws of nature? No. And in fact, Spiritism not even don't perform miracles, but it does quite the contrary. When Spiritism came, when the Spirits used Kardec to bring us all the knowledge of the Spiritism, it is exactly the contrary. They gave us a new level of knowledge that helped to take away this idea of miracles in a sense of a derogation of the laws of nature. Right? Because now, with the Spiritism, we find out that things are not just what's happening here. There's a whole spiritual world here, which is actually the same, but highly connected to each other. Right? And in fact, in the Spirit's book, Kardec asks the Spirits say, does the spiritual world has any influence on the incarnated world? And he says yes, and it's way greater than what you expect it to be. Right? So we highly integrated, right? So it's not just what's happening here, but there's also what's happening in the spiritual plane. So things that's considered as a miracle, for example, in Kardec's time, when they had like the turning tables or the tables that would float, those at the beginning was considered supernatural. Supernatural, again, in the sense that goes against the derogation of the divine or the natural laws of nature, right? Because if I lift a table here and I let it go, it's gonna fall, gravity will bring it down. Well, but it's in the air, like we all seeing, and nobody's holding it. How it's possible? So that is, at that time, was considered a derogation of the laws of gravity. This is actually, there's no gravity in here, right? And then Spiritism comes and say, no. Yes, there is the law of gravity. It is there. It's there. It's not a derogation, but the way that the spiritual plan deals with the gravity, because they are also affected by gravity, is different. Because they can manipulate fluids and use magnetism to lift a table and hold against gravity. Right? Can we do this here? Yes, we can. I have seen a scientific experiment that someone got this iron ball, it's probably weighed like 10 kilos, put it on a magnetic field, and it's floating in the air. Or is gravity gone? No. We use a magnetic field to manipulate this fluid and hold this 10-kilo iron ball in the air. So, anything extraordinary or out of laws of nature? No. Magnetism is part of the laws of nature. And we understand magnetism these days, like no problem at all. But imagine the first guy who found 2 pieces of magnet, what's called the stone? Sorry?
Magnets.
Magnets, yeah. And then imagine the guy found it, and then all of a sudden they going to, and if he flips one, then they repels. Like, you think that's magic? It's magic. I never saw putting 2 stones together, and they look for each other, and attract each other or they repel each other, right? It's magic. Magic, it's a miracle. Now to just like, oh no, that's, now use that to clean stuff in our fridge, right? I don't know exactly how it's happening. Don't think it's a miracle. They want to put my fridge magnet, it stays there. Like, that's amazing, right? We don't. Like, oh yeah, it's magnets, we know what it is, right? Before it was considered a miracle, not anymore, right? So with all the knowledge that Spirit has brought with us, we start to understand that now there's this other level, which is the spiritual plan, who can work or can have an effect in the material things here, in our bodies, how the connection is done, right? Now we know that we have a spirit, we have a pure spirit and a body, and that the pure spirit, which is the envelope around the spirit, is what connects to the body, makes that connection, right? And in fact, on the mediumistic meeting, which Spiritism didn't create mediumship, it's made very clear. We didn't. Mediumship happens like since the Egyptian times. We have stories of mediumship. At that time, it was considered something supernatural. In a sense, almost like a miracle, was a supernatural. Today, for us in spiritism, we're like, oh yeah, the spirit comes and to spirit using the fluid, he can actually use the communicate with the medium, and so we understand this whole thing. So a lot of things that before were considered miracles or supernatural, with this knowledge that the spirit has brought to us, now we understand that. And just because we don't understand some laws of fluid, the way they understand on the spiritual plan, it doesn't make them supernatural. It just means we don't have the knowledge yet, right? Like I said, go back 1,000 years, so many things are considered miracles. Now, are the very few things we can still kind of call miracle, but we just call miracles because we don't understand. And that's what it is. But eventually, even those very little things that people still could call a miracle, even though they're 10, 20, 30 years the way the science is going, it's like, oh, now we get it. Now we understand, right? It's like Kardec, when Kardec went to see the tables, right? Goes, okay, yeah, this is probably not someone with strings, and I'm going to go there what it is. And then he started to study scientifically with a very scientific approach, and then realized, oh, no, wait a second. There is an intelligence behind this. Because he himself, before, thought it was not supernatural, but he thought it was just, some kind of a trick. And then after doing a very scientific study of everything, now he starts to understand, it's like, no, actually there is more in there that we didn't know before, but now we know, right? There's this whole spiritual plan that interacts with us, that allows for the communication to come through, why they come through, how they come through. So there's no miracle, nothing supernatural, right? And mediums are not anybody special. No, this is different from the other people. Yeah, they have different abilities, but in the same way that we all here have different abilities, right? That's why we all have different types of jobs, different types of hobbies, and everything, because they have different abilities. And that's what a ostensive medium is, someone with just different abilities, right? A bit more developed abilities, I would say, right, than we do. So with Spiritism, we understand that the spirit is nothing but the souls that has survived the body, and it is subjected to the laws that govern the spiritual principle, just as the body is subject to those that govern the material principle. But what he says to us in this chapter 13 in Genesis is that they're not separate, they're not different in a sense that the two separate things. He says, no, they're the two parts of the same whole. There's just one that's divided into two parts in there, but are highly connected, the spiritual and the material side here, right? But they both, and if you really think how they really work, it's not much different from each other. The only difference I want to hear in the body, like I said, we have to follow, our body has to follow the laws of this material life, right? Because we have cold, we're thirsty, we're hungry, and we have all those things that we need to respond to. Which one on the spiritual side we are not, right? But there's other things that maybe we can experience that maybe being in this body we don't. Right? So that's the difference. But I was even, when I was preparing this lecture, I was thinking about André Luiz, and in one of his books, I remember that at some point someone's sick, and they, in the spiritual plan, is trying to intervene and help, right? And what they do is they go to a forest and they extract from some specific plants some of the fluids, the principles that they needed to fluidify the water that this person was gonna drink, right? And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Isn't that what we do here in Incarnated as well? Also different homeopathic medicine. Don't we go take the plants? The only difference is that the way we extract is different, right? In the spiritual plan, they go and by magnetism, they extract all those substances that they need from the plant. And what do? We go to the same process, get the same plant, but what we do, we smash, we grind, we do whatever we need to do with that leaf to extract the elements that we need to create the medicine. Just different ways of doing, right? Just different, but in the end, it's so highly connected. It's way more connected than when we thought. Okay? So the supernatural of the haunted houses, people hear people talking, things floating, doors slamming, they were supernatural. It's no longer supernatural. It's actually natural, right? And that's what he says, the Spirit says to us through this book, Genesis, that one is no more natural than the other, exactly the same in terms of being natural, normal, and they all are in part of the laws of nature. Because there's nothing, it's all just because we are now in the spiritual plan, now we can derogate the laws of nature. No, the laws of nature is exactly the same. Incarnated, discarnated, because they are the ones who govern this planet, right? So they also have to, the only thing is how they interact with the laws of nature, such as gravity, is different. Yeah, it's different, right? That's why there they can levitate, right? Here we can't, unless you have something to, a machine that you attach to you and push you back. Otherwise, you can't. There they can, right? Because also they don't have this heavy body. So, so it's the way we work with the laws is different. The laws of nature. The laws are the same, and they're never going to be derogated, right? Because if you actually think that any of us, or if the healing medium there, or whoever person is doing a miracle in the sense of derogating the laws of nature, it's really seeing that this person has more power than God, who created this perfect universe, and this person can go against his laws. Because again, laws of nature are part of the divine laws created by him. So we cannot do it, right? It's not possible that one of us here has more power than God and we can derogate his laws. That would not make any sense, right? So in that sense, that, and then I'm just going to bring another example, for example, here. That people can say, but there's examples in Spiritism that it looks like the laws were derogated. So, for example, talking about healing, let's talk about Bezerra de Menezes, right? Dr. Bezerra de Menezes is very well known, and we know about him and there's Euripides. They both did a lot of healings that at the time was like impossible, but they did it. And there's this very famous story about Bezerra, because Bezerra was a doctor who really worked for the poor, and he would give anything that he had, right? If he would prescribe a medication, this person, so I have no money to pay, he would give his earring, his whatever money he had in his pocket, his watch, whatever he had, he would give to these people. Until they got one day that this guy was really sick and came to him, and he prescribed something and said, I have no money. And Bezerra had nothing left to give, nothing. And he didn't know what to do. And then what he did, he looked to the guy and said, you know what, prescribe this prescription. You're gonna tear in little pieces, put in a glass of water and drink it. And the guy comes next day to say, I'm much better, I'm cured. Is there a derogation of the divine laws? Because that would be called a miracle. Let's be But they're, right? They'll be calling me, and please don't go home and tear your prescriptions apart, put in a glass of orange, please go to the pharmacy, buy your prescription and take them, okay? Because wasn't Bezerra de Menezes who gave you that prescription. But was any derogation of the divine laws there? It would be impossible, impossible, right? There put a prescription, paper, a little bit of ink, and drinking. So what happened in there? First thing those Bezerra de Menezes, imagine the level of the spirits from a man who truly dedicated his life as a doctor to help the ones in need, with so much compassion, with so much dedication. Imagine the amount of spirits that he had and the level of those spirits that were around him, because he brought them to him, because he had a merit to have those spirits around him. So probably when he did that thing in that moment, he just prayed and said, help me here, because I don't know what to do. So when he did to this patient, saying, go and do that, it was just for this patient to have, and of course the patient had the faith to think, you know what, if it's Dr. Bezerra de Menezes was asking me to do, I am gonna do it, and I know this is gonna cure me. So in that moment, this person through the space opened up to the help that the doctors on the spiritual plane, for sure, putting in their water all the fluids. So when they did their homeopathic job in the spiritual plan, put all the senses that was needed in the water that he drank. So it was really the water that he got from the tap and the paper that cured him? No, but there was medication in that water. And these days, we think that that's possible. And it's possible. Why? Because we have the spiritual plan working as well. We have doctors in the spiritual plan helping, right? And that's pretty much what happened. That water was fluidified by the spiritual plan, so he could get the medicine that he needed. Right? So there's no miracle here. There was no derogation of the divine laws here. There's no derogation of the laws of nature, right? Because sometimes you can get those things out, that's a miracle. It's in the sense of derogation, no. A miracle in the sense of this extraordinary, absolutely, right? Because that's the true meaning of the word miracle, right? It's something that's extraordinary, that's so surprising. Then yes, but in the sense of a derogation of the laws, absolutely not. And it is the same process that has been used on people who have cured cancers that maybe the regular medicine has not been able to do, or any other diseases, right? Through passes or through healing is because we know there is a spiritual plan here also working here with us. Also, the team of doctors treating us is way bigger than the doctor that's sitting in front of us, especially if we're open to it, especially if we have our faith. If we understand, right, this more. So the Spirit says, no, the Spirit does not perform miracles. It's quite the opposite. We take away this concept of miracle. We clarify, we bring a new level of knowledge that now more and more helps to say, no, there's no derogation of the divine laws. There's no derogation of the laws of nature. But when you think about miracles, first thing that comes in our mind is Jesus. Jesus and the gospel. Because the gospel is full of miracles, right? And miracles in the sense of derogation of the laws, because that's how we've been put to us through centuries, through religion, through theology, that miracles is a derogation of the divine laws, right? But did Jesus really derogate the divine laws or the laws of nature? No. Didn't. And first he wouldn't, because again, if he could derogate the laws, the divine laws, then it seems more powerful than God. Would make no sense. As much as way more powerful, way more knowledgeable, they're not even compared to us. There's not even comparison in there. But then from him to God, there's a distance, a pretty big distance as well. So could he derogate? No. Second, why would he derogate divine laws? They're perfect. And he knew it more than us here. He knew it, they're perfect. I don't need to derogate anything here. But he had a knowledge that we didn't have at the time. Right? So he didn't. He didn't need to derogate, and he didn't. And also, he made it very clear, he said, I didn't come to destroy the law. I came to fulfill. So him or anybody else would follow all the laws, the divine laws, the moral, the laws of nature, and everything. And through Spiritism, we know that he is the governor of this planet, and with a group of highly evolved spirits, he actually designed the nature on this planet. He helped to design. He's protecting this planet right from the blueprint. Okay, there's a new planet that's going to forming there because I don't know exactly how planets are formed, but something starts to stick to each other and it grows and becomes a planet, and it's right there. Beings up here, so you're preparing, designing. The dogs are looking like this, and then we'll see an elephant and a giraffe, and you're going to have the trees and this, and see that. So there's someone that can manipulate the fluids in this planet. It's Jesus, right? But no one else. He designed this planet. He understands universal fluid like no one else in this planet. Why he needs to derogate the laws, he doesn't need it. Right? And that's exactly what he did. Right? So there's many passages in the gospel that are considered miracles, right? But I just brought two. And one is the raising of Lazarus. So when he resurrects Lazarus from the dead, right? And basically what it is, Mary and Martha will call him Jesus to see, Lazarus is dead, and then Jesus says, no, I'm coming, and then he comes. But when he arrives, Lazarus had died 4 days already. It's been 4 days that he's already in the tomb, like the old tombs when they put like that piece of stone in front to hold, and then he comes and he goes, open the tomb. And one of the sisters said, no, but it's been 4 days, and it's be like the odor, like the bad smell from inside is going to be pretty bad. He goes, no, open. And when they pull the stone away, he just calls and says, Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus comes out. It's a miracle. Did he bring Lazarus back from the dead? From the dead in terms of death. The spirit is disconnected from the body, it's completely gone, and he says, hey, Lazarus, come back. We're waiting right here. And then, let me go back to my body. That's been 4 days decomposing. No, of course not, because that would be a derogation of the laws of nature. A spirit cannot go back to a body that's decomposing already, that has completely disconnected. We know that because Kardec brought us this knowledge. The spirits brought this knowledge to us. That you have the spirit, the pure spirit, and there's this umbilical cord that connects us, which is the same one when we're sleeping, keeps us connected, and our body partially disconnects while we're sleeping. We're all connected. The umbilical cord breaks, there is no reconnection, and that's part of laws of nature, right? Again, so the reason that Lazarus was able to come out is because Jesus, who was the most evolved and a perfect spirit, could see things that we couldn't see, right? He didn't see with the eyes of his body. He saw with the eyes of the spirit. He knew Lazarus was alive. You have to remember that 2,000 years ago, we didn't understand or didn't even know it existed things such as narcolepsy, catatonic state, lethargy, so many things. Could he be just a narcoleptic? Yes, he could. I fell asleep. And we have now history. We have stories of people that when they went to take the coffins out, people had clear signs of this person being alive, so being buried alive. So probably because they had some medical condition that now we know that actually doesn't look like you're dead and you're not, right? But yes, we have found people, and then there's signs of people like scratching, trying to, change position in the coffin because they probably wake up in the coffin alive, right? Difference that these days we know what it is. We know the medical condition. At that time, we had no clue. Can you imagine, for example, someone 2,000 years ago being catatonic? And being catatonic, you're going to be in the same position, non-responsive, could take for hours, weeks, months, or years. And a catatonic person, if you put the arm like this and they get catatonic, this arm stays there. Try to hold your arm for, I'll give 5 minutes. 5, without moving at all. Probably by 2 yourself, okay, I can do it. I can do it, it can stay there. Now imagine 2,000 years ago, you have someone who stopped, not responsive for hours. It's dead. It's dead. This person not responsive and doesn't move. It's dead. That's put in a coffin. Let's bury this person. They had no idea, but Jesus knew, right? And he could see that, okay, the spirit's still attached to the body, the umbilical cord is still there connected, the crispits connect. So just, had some medical condition that I cannot explain. Imagine him at the time saying, oh, don't worry, Mary Martha, he's just he's narcoleptic. He was like, what? Oh, yeah, no, that's right. Because the central system nerve, when they be like, what? You couldn't, right? They just say, don't worry. You walk outside. And he did. And another really good example to me is the Jairus' daughter. So Jairus goes to Jesus and say, please come to my house because my daughter is dying, right? But by the time he reaches Jesus, people say, oh, your daughter's already dead. And Jesus goes to the house. And when he comes to the house, there's this bunch of women and people crying and screaming and desperate. And Jesus comes to the house and says, why are you guys crying? Like, what's this? All this noise here. And it's, oh, she died, and and they're crying, this despair. And he goes, she's not dead, she's sleeping. So he's making very clear here, you guys think she's dead. She's not. She is sleeping. That's what he says. He says, everybody, just leave the house. It's too much noise in here. Just leave the house. And then when everybody leaves the house, he just gets to the door and say, get up. She wakes up and she gets up. Right? So he's saying here, she is not, it's affirming. So he brought her back from the dead? No. For the people who thought she was dead, who didn't understand medical conditions, who couldn't see what he could see, yeah, she looked dead. But he announced she's not dead, she's just sleeping. So probably she's, in his mind, he knew she just has probably a medical condition and she's sleeping. So it is. So, of course, then with imagine, do you have the person in your life that every time you get close to this person, it feels so good? It's like, they have that energy that comes. Imagine being beside Jesus. Imagine. What must be just what he radiates around it. I don't think at the time he didn't need to manipulate the fluid, because just his energy there probably would be enough to manipulate the fluid around this girl to make her wake up, to change in her physiological system and nervous system whatever was keeping her sleeping. But she was not dead. So that's a miracle. No, it's not a miracle. In the sense of that he went there and derogated the divine laws or the laws of nature. No, there's no such a thing. Right? Jesus, in any moment, even when he transformed the water into wine, that's all fluid manipulation. Then now we know it's possible. And science now knows about matter so much more. And it's funny how science, for a moment, completely detached from religious, say, God doesn't exist. But it's funny how the more science tries to prove that God doesn't exist, the more it walks to God. It's hilarious. The more it walks to God, right? And the more you start to prove stuff, then in 150, 160, I think now, years ago, the spirits already have told Kardec, like, oh, we know already that. It's like, oh, yeah, we know that as well, right? So yeah, we bring fluids. We can do that now, right? We can now change the genes, right? We can now do the gene genoma thing, like you can change. He probably could just manipulate fluids. That's laws of nature. He was just using laws of what he did in every single miracle and the gospel. He was using the laws of nature, laws that we didn't know about, laws of physics, chemistry. We had no idea. I had no idea. He knew. He could manipulate. So he was doing. So there's no miracles. So Jesus didn't perform any miracles, in a sense of derogation of the laws of nature. And then keep thinking about the effectiveness of prayer, because you say, oh, but people pray, and then it worked, right? And there was a miracle, right? Or some people say, oh, it's the opposite. oh, if only what God wishes that should happen, why are we gonna pray? Does prayer really has any effect? Does it really help? Does prayers can perform any miracles? Well, again, perform miracles in the sense of derogation of the law of nature? No, right? But can it be quite surprising what it can do? Yes. Right? I remember I had a patient one time in the ICU, and the doctor's call is just way before pandemic. Called the family and said she has 24 hours. And so the whole family came because at the time, if your beloved one it was passing away, you would not limit the amount of people that could come. So the whole family came, very religious family. I can remember at the time if they're Baptist or evangelical, very religious. So the family on that evening all surrounded her and prayed over her. This patient not only survived 24 hours, but she left the hospital in her body, incarnated, alive. And I remember doing rounds with the doctors, and the doctors talking about the fact that the family came to do this prayer. And just by the tone of their voice, I could see in their minds, they're rolling their eyes, right? Kind of, oh yeah, they came and prayed over her. It's like, oh, it's kind of cute, right? But of course, it's we here who saved her, right? So basically, what did they do that they did? Did they perform a miracle? No. What they did, imagine a group of people who really loved her, who have a true faith at that moment, creating this level of positive energy, manipulating all the fluid, because we know this, every time I think something or I feel something, I create matter. We know that. So creating this positive, that's probably gave her the fluids that she needed. And of course, because there's God as well above, they say, yes, this daughter of mine will survive longer, and I will give that. But it came through the prayers. Because probably the medicine that we're giving was not enough, was not working. But through the prayers that she needed, and maybe even the intuition for the family, hey, go all of you there and pray over her. Right? And they did it and created this fluid of energy that we know that affects our bodies to help her to heal. And she went to the hospital. They gave her 24 hours. So those prayers work. Yes, they do work. The problem is that a lot of times, I think over time, over the millenniums, we all here were trained to believe in miracles in a sense of a derogation of the laws, of the divine laws, of the laws of nature. Something that if I really pray, the sky is gonna open and my problems are gonna be solved without, because that's what we want. We're all looking for miracles that will solve my problems without having to do anything. That's how a lot of times we look for a spiritual center to solve my problems. I want that passes that I'm receiving to solve my problems without me having to do anything. The problem is that prayers don't have that power. Any spiritual center don't have that power. Any medium, as much as they're good, they don't have that power. Because our problems, we have to solve them. Because all the difficulties that we go through are the lessons that we need to go through, to learn, to overcome with patience, resignation. It's teaching us something that we need to learn. Of course, we should resort to the prayers, of course, because if I'm going through a difficult, I want to have a lending hand, yes. But the problem is then how we pray and what we pray for. And a lot of times, if I'm going through difficult times, I'll pray and I ask, help me to solve this problem. But the truth, what I want is solve my problem. It's not help to solve the problem. And if you're really praying with faith, the help is always going to come. Well, it's going to be coming maybe in a way that I didn't expect it, or in a way that's not exactly what I wanted. But whatever we need is going to come. And that's, I think, the problem. It doesn't come what we want necessarily. It comes what we need. But a lot of times the help comes, and because it doesn't come in the format that I wanted, I brush aside. Because you know how it's going to help us? It's here. Is that friend that comes and talks to you and says something that you know you need to listen, you need to hear to help you? Is the friend that maybe you didn't say for a long time, all of a sudden shows up, hey, I have, something, oh, but that's what I need. It's like, and he helps you. It's out of the blue. He works here towards us, right? So in the chapter 27 of the Gospel according to the Spirit, it's talking about it's ask and you shall receive. Right? And that's the problem. We take this literally and think, oh yeah, I just need to pray. You see, ask and you shall receive. But ask is an action, right? It requires an action. And we think that's, oh yeah, so I just need to, sit here and, ask and it will come. And he brings an example in this chapter that he says about a man who's in the desert and he's thirsty. He's walking in the desert for a long time and he's thirsty. Has no more energy and he falls on the floor and then he prays and says, God, please help me. And in that moment, he gets an inspiration, right, by this spiritual protector say, get up and walk in this direction. And he does. He finds a energy, less resource of energy that he doesn't even know where it comes from, but he gets up and he walks and now he sees himself in a higher position. Then he sees an oasis down there, or a brook, a little stream of water. And then, he can reach there and then he can drink. And in the chapter, he says, if it's someone who's true faith, what he's going to say is, thank you, God, for giving me the intuition to get up and walk from this direction. Thank you for your help. He's going to see this help that he asked for God. But if someone who doesn't really have a true faith, or, has no faith at all, what he's going to say is like, oh, look how lucky I am. Look, through my own efforts, I'm glad that I had the idea to walk in this direction, and then I found the Lord. So I saved myself. Because that's what's going to happen. When they're in the desert asking for a glass of water, the sky is not going to open. And an angel is going to come down with a glass of water and say, here's your water. But that's what we want. That's what we expect when we pray. And that's what we expect in our lives, or a lot of times when we look for spiritual centers. That's what we want. We want that when I'm thirsty, that the sky is going to open, this miracle angel is going to come and give me the glass of water. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is exactly what happened with the example that they give in the book. You're going to have the intuition, the help, or even if, let's say, if you have no more energy to get up at all, maybe you're going to give an intuition to another traveler to maybe for some reason change their direction and walk by this guy and be able to rescue him. That's how the help comes, through each other. Do you think it's a coincidence when we put in a situation that we could help someone that, today just changed my way that I was walking to work, and then all of a sudden I run into someone and they actually need some help. So it's not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. We all put on each other's life to help one another. So we need to pray. This is our connection to God. That's how we help for them. And it's always going to come, but it's not going to come as a miracle, in the sense that something extraordinary or something that's beyond nature, it's going to happen, solve my problems. It is not. Right? But that's what a lot of things want. I want a miracle. I'm going to pray so that when I come outside, there's a miracle, and a bag of money is going to be waiting for me outside to solve all my financial problems. Right? It's not going to happen. Probably what's going to happen, you're going to get an offer of a job, or a call for an interview, or a friend says, hey, in my company, we need someone that actually, that's how it's going to be. If you really connect and we ask for the help, right? So when we ask for strength, when we ask for God, give me guidance. I'm going through this hard time. Give me guidance. Give me the strength. Show me the path that you want me to go. And it will be shown to us. We need to be open for that, because we need to walk the extra mile to find the water. The glass of cup is the cup of water is not going to come from the sky. Right? Miracles do not exist in this sense. So in which sense can we use the word miracle? Again, let's go back to the true meaning of the word, something that's extraordinary. And if you go back to the true sense of what it is, a miracle, which means something that's extraordinary, that's admirable, that's surprising, we can see that in our daily life is surrounded by miracles. Anybody here watched a baby being born? I watched twice, a cesarean, no. It's a miracle. It's so extraordinary seeing that being coming out and start a new life. It's completely in nature. We already know how babies are done and know how their cells are done. Like there's nothing here against the law. It's a miracle. It's a miracle in the sense it's extraordinary. How many of us can sometimes stop and look at a sunset or a sunrise and say, this is a miracle of life. It's something that's so extraordinary, so beautiful. We're surrounded by miracles in that sense, right? Or we can use miracles, for example, when you ask your kid to tidy the room only once and they go and do it right away. It's a miracle. It's so extraordinary, right? So extraordinary and so surprising that we call this a miracle, right? Isn't that how it goes? So then we can use the word miracle. There's no derogation of the laws of nature here, but it's a miracle that you ask your kid to do it just once and they went and they did it. Amazing, right? So that's in the sense that we can use the word miracles. Do they exist? Yes, but in a sense that we're surrounded by a lot of extraordinary things happening around us, right? We need to look around them and find them. They are here in life, they're in nature, they're in the relationships that we have. We have them in new lives coming. So, you know, incarnated spirits coming here back to another life. So there's so much miracles, extraordinary things happening around us, right? That we can be grateful for, that we can be amazed by, right? But not in the sense of derogation. And if there's anything these days that we still have no explanation for, is nonetheless make them miracles. Just make sure that we don't have enough knowledge yet to explain them, right? But eventually we will. So, and that's what I had to say today about miracles. I'm sorry if I burst in by bubbles who thought the miracles existed. It doesn't. And it's not in the sense that we was taught along our many incarnated lives as what miracles are, right? But yes, they are surrounded around us. So let's watch around, let's look around us, like daily, you know, our daily lives, and be grateful for all the small miracles that happen around us. Thank you. We have no MC today, so Rafael, if there's any comments or questions on the internet?
No.
Does anybody have any comments or questions here? Sorry that I put you in trouble there. We do have a kid, just people on the internet, we have a kid today with the parents, so probably my example put him on the spot. Any comments or any questions or anything today? All right. So thank you everyone that was with us over the internet today, and hoping to see you here back next Sunday.